Hi there, and welcome back to the Daily Rituals of Prosperous People, the best tools to provide time, energy, and enthusiasm for your life and business. I'm your host, Tamsin Astor, your Chief Habit Scientist. I help busy people organize themselves so they have time for what they want, time for what they need, and time for fun. Today, I'm super excited to introduce a fellow Brit, Simon, who is a former member of UKSF and the intelligence community, and has worked in extreme environments and situations for over 20 years. He is now a psychologist, master behavioral coach, an accredited NLP and hypnosis trainer, and a motivational speaker based in Scotland and working internationally. Simon is also a published author in the wellness and personal development fields and runs workshops based on his work. He's developed his own system for coaching and therapy, which specializes in PTSD and trauma, which he's been using across a variety of industries and with military and civilian clients. Wow, that's pretty impressive stuff there, Simon. So tell me a little bit about how you shifted from your former work in intelligence into the world of coaching. Did you have an aha moment, or was it a general slow weave into it?
A general slow decline.
No, kind of rising up.
It drove me mad, I think, is what it did. Yes, sent me on a journey of self-exploration, I think is the best description.
Right.
I lost a complete sense of self. I had no idea who I was after being so many different people for so many years. I think I fell off the edge a little bit.
Right.
Not a lot, head first. Yeah.
So it sounds a little bit like, those descriptions. I remember being fascinated when I studied undergraduate psychology about the multiple personality disorder.
Yes.
When you have extreme trauma, how you split into these different personalities.
Yep.
It sounds like a little bit of that sense was going on, that your sense of self was so disrupted.
Yeah, massively. It was hidden under layer after layer after layer of different personalities, different roles, and it's very confusing.
Yeah.
And everything I do now is the culmination of all these explorations I've done through hypnosis, NLP, psychotherapy, psychology,
right,
coaching, and yeah, it's really I kind of found out a way that worked for me and has worked for my clients so far. Touch wood.
So tell me. Can you explain a little bit about NLP, neuro-linguistic programming? I'm not sure that everybody listening will necessarily know what that is.
Yeah, I know it's kind of a bit of a tongue twister, really. And it's the way it's understanding human behavior and how to model, how to mirror and copy excellence in other people. The people copying how people are consistently successful in what they do and understanding the underlying strategy that they use to be successful.
Okay.
And then taking that on and adapting it to fit you, not to do it exactly because that's theirs.
Right. Okay. So that's looking at well, right. Imitation is the sincerest form of flattery, right?
Yes.
So it's like the idea of taking, I'm always really interested because one of the things that I see my clients struggling with is being diligent about taking time for themselves and that they feel selfish or indulgent, to make sure that they schedule me time. And, one of the things that I point out to them is how, somewhere like Google every Friday, everybody who works at Google doesn't have to do the work that they're employed to do. They can explore. And that people like Oprah and Branson and all of these big, Mark Cuban, who's on Shark Tank, they spend at least 5 hours a week doing something fun and totally not engaged to what their primary business is, reading books, learning a language, cooking, traveling, whatever it is.
Yeah. We need variety. Boredom sets in, and then the enthusiasm starts to dissolve. Yeah, absolutely. It's a big, everyone who's been, these huge, famous celebrity, successful people all do the same things. There are common themes across all of them. So applying, learning about what they do,
right,
testing it out for yourself.
Right. And I know a big part of your work is this idea of like your personal beliefs and and then the values that underpin them. But I think one of the things that's really interesting to me when I do the reading on that, and then the work myself on that and the work with my clients, is that when you start to get clear about what you like and what you want to do in the world and what your bigger why is, that's the point when you can start to say no, right?
Yes.
Because otherwise you're just, taking everything on and allowing everybody else to tell you, what they think you should be doing and how you should be spending your time. So when you work with your clients, how do you help people figure out what their personal values are in terms of driving them helping them figure out how to drive themselves in the right direction?
I start in one way, I suppose. I start at the end. So I ask people to start to write down a draft purpose statement. What's their purpose in life? Okay. So I start there and then I work my way back and then we go back to the beginning again. Okay. So I start, what is their purpose? What's their understanding of their purpose at the moment? Then I ask them, okay, let's look at your values. Right. And we go through a values exercise as many times as we need to in order to get them aligned with what really flicks their switch, what gets them up, what drives them on. Right. And then we go down the next level to beliefs, why do they believe that those values are important?
Were they things that were imposed on them by others, or are they truly from within?
Absolutely, yeah. Are they conditioned? Are they battered into them through school and politics and religion and friends and parents and... Gender,
right?
Gender, yes, absolutely, yeah. Yeah, very much so.
Yeah.
There's so much bullshit out there.
Yeah, no, there really is. There really is. And I think it's one of the things that's been really interesting to me because I've got 2 sons and a daughter.
Okay.
And my oldest is 13. So he's, really entering that stage of, trying to separate himself from me and figure out who he is in the world. And his big thing and our kind of current ongoing discussion is around feminism. And, that he thinks that a lot of the feminist stuff out there is way too extreme. Mm-hmm. And we've been having this conversation about how when people are trying to make their voice heard, they often go really far because they're trying to make a point. They're trying to get out there and be like, hey, this is a really big deal about, how I'm treated, whether it's all of the, living in the US, the whole issues around, Hillary was all of that. There's a lot of stuff coming up there, Planned Parenthood and the access to, reproductive health care, all of these different, pay disparities, all of that, how we manage that. That's really interesting. And when you start to dig into that, Simon, what do you often find is one thing that motivates people, or not motivates people, that is the driving force in creating people's values? Is it society? Is it how you're raised? Is it like a sort of aha moment that pushed somebody to think, oh, this is who I am and this is how I should be in the world?
It's really interesting because a lot of it is parental conditioning. Parents instill their values on their children with the best of intentions,
right?
Not knowing how that child is going to develop and grow, and the ideas and the dreams and wishes and aspirations they're going to have. Right. And so we all go through this process of following somebody else's dreams to start with. And some parents are pushing others. Dance moms is a good example.
Right.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Bizarre. And then, God, yeah. And then there's, religious beliefs come into play and drive people off in different directions. Career aspirations, they're all, and kids are forced too early to make a decision as to what they want to do. How the hell are you supposed to know at 15, 16 years old what you want to do?
Right. No, I mean, I remember finding that a problem in the British system, having to choose my A-levels and thinking, like, what do I do? And I simply went down the route of science because I thought I can imagine going back and studying French and German and geography and history, politics when I'm 30, 40, 50. But there's no way in hell I'm going to go and do maths and chemistry and biology. So I did, I simply chose the sciences because I thought I've got to go one way or the other. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, no, that's interesting, that point about parents. I mean, I think, I feel that tension as a parent. And it reminds me of that poem Philip Larkin, the poet laureate from many years ago, wrote that poem, Mum and Dad, they fuck you up, they don't mean to, but they do. How do you learn to step away from that and embody it?
Wow, I know, it's so hard. It's so hard because, we as parents, we don't want to see our kids make the same cock-ups that we made.
Right.
You're like, oh God. But then somebody, I can't remember where I heard this, read it, seen it, whatever. As parents, we're the bow and the child is the arrow, and you point them in the direction you think is best and let them go, and then let the wind and everything else guide them.
Khalil Gibran, I think. It may have been a Khalil Gibran piece.
Yeah. But it's a beautiful metaphor for how I believe it should be for my kids.
Yeah, absolutely. So that must have been interesting in your sphere too, in the world of military, because I've never served. One of my cousins did, and now he does international security. So disappears off to Lebanon or Syria for sort of 3 or 4 weeks at a time, freaking out his wife. Like, you won't hear from me, you won't see me, I'll probably be back in a month. I should imagine a big part of that too is learning to take on, the expectations of others in terms of what is defined as this is the overall goal we have, in terms of thinking about what is prosperity, what is, being successful, right? You need to let go of your agenda and follow the group, push.
Yes, definitely. Yeah. And I think it's such a shame as well when if that's the sort of thing that you want to do, then great. If you want to, but I think we all get to a point in life where we kind of push away all the crap and the niff-naff and trivia that's not really relevant for us, and it takes a while.
Right.
It took me until my 40s, I think, to really. I kind of knew what I wanted to do at different points. I knew I wanted to join the Royal Marines, so I did, and everything I wanted to do thereafter, I got kind of. I'm fed up with this now. I don't want to do this anymore.
Right.
And I would pick something else and I would move on and on. And now I'm settled in what I'm doing. And I think this is my gut feeling is that this is the thing I'll do till, I shuffle off this mortal coil. That'll be, this will be me because I'm settled and I've got nobody shooting at me, nobody trying to blow me up, kill me in any way, shape or form these days. It's marvelous.
Just your baseline of what is marvelous and different. It's a little bit different. So when you work with somebody and they start to explore like their deep sense of what their values are, their beliefs, and then thinking about how to access that so that they can operate from that, how do you help them figure out, or do they have a light bulb moment? Is there a particular way to help them figure out whether it's truly theirs or it's something that they've taken on? Because I think that sense of defining your life based on other people's terms is something that, as we've discussed, like whether it's the parents putting it on, whether it's society, your gender, your particular choice of work, like how do you help them start to disentangle that?
I'll make it very clear at the beginning that their selection is really, it's an important little exercise that's very powerful. It doesn't take necessarily too long. Some people just get through it in one go. Some people it's 2, 3, 4, 5 goes to get everything in order. But it's their choice. This is about their life. This is not living somebody else's. It's not living under somebody else's rules. These are your guiding principles for how you live your life. So what are these things? What are the things that make you feel comfortable? What are your rules for your life? And it's why it can take a few goes because of the conditioned response in terms of how their thinking process.
Right. No, that's true. I mean, I think one of the ways there are all these different frames for trying to understand this. One of the ways that I talk about it with my clients is the sense of the ought self and the ideal self, right? Yep. And trying to disentangle those two. And I'm always amazed how few people have really taken a step back to look. They've started on a path down, being a doctor, being an accountant, being a parent, whatever it is. And sometimes they, when you start to challenge them, it's frightening for them and they haven't really stepped back and looked and gone, crap, like, I don't know that I know what I want or what I like, because I've been living this path, going down this route for so long. Do people show up with a lot of fear
They do not slightly nervous and a little bit anxious initially, I think, and then, but yeah, sometimes there is like, holy shit, I don't know.
Right.
And that's quite scary because to not know what your purpose is or what what you want to do, it can freak people out, and they can start to kind of backpedal a little. But I just, it's to say, look, it's okay to not know.
Yeah.
There's lots of things you don't know. This is just one of them. So and the fact that you now know that you don't know is kind of reassuring.
Yeah. 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 And so when you get into that, do you try and divide it up? Because it's interesting as well. Like, people have different frames of thinking, am I driven more from, a sense of commitment to other, am I driven more from a sense of wanting to, contribute a particular thing, to create something, and you could divide those into, like the spiritual or the community or, or an emotional thing. What do you help people think about how to, categorize or group, or is that something that just sort of naturally comes up through this work?
It kind of comes out on its own, because I've worked with somebody who is a banker,
mm-hmm.
and they had a complete change after this. They quit their job, and they actually went on to become a therapist.
Love it.
So ditching all that,
all that stuff,
yeah. Like, oh. But then they sold the house. I think they actually got divorced. I was like, oh, holy shit.
Yeah. No, I mean, it can be, I had that too. My ex-husband walked out 4 times, and the 4th time he walked out, I was really deep into my path of like self-help, self-care, trainings. And that was like, the 3rd time I'd taken him back for my kids' sake, and the 4th time I was like,
yeah,
this is not making me happy anymore. This is not making my children happy. This is not and what was really interesting is after he left and it all shifted and you navigate the shit of the divorce, is people said to me, your energy's so different. You're completely different in the way you engage in the world now. And I think it's right. It's that sense of like, that sense of, I should be doing this, rather than like, do I really want this? Do I truly feel that this is the path I'm on and where I want to go? That's fascinating. Wow. That must have been a real kind of whoa moment.
It is, yeah. I mean, and they've just gone on from strength to strength, and it's a wonderful thing to see, and a privilege to be a part of. I feel very privileged in what I do in working with people, because people trust us.
Yeah.
With an awful lot.
Right.
A huge amount, deeply personal.
Yeah.
And they don't know, people come to me, and I've never met them before, never know anything about them.
Yeah.
And they pour all this deeply personal information out.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's you've got to be very respectful.
Absolutely.
In
right.
order to do this work. It's not break that trust, because people trust you blindly, implicitly from the get-go.
Yeah.
In order to do this. So I think when I spoke to Rebecca Mars last year, the kind of the metaphor I use is like, we sometimes we think we know which direction we're going in, but it's such slow, hard work, because we've got this huge, great anchor and chain hanging off our back, and we're dragging this bloody thing in a direction that's not really right for us, which is why it's there.
Yeah, right.
And it gets to the point where the anchor, we can't drag the anchor any further. It's so embedded, and then we start going around and around in a circle, getting smaller and smaller and smaller, until we go whack straight into the anchor.
Yeah.
And sometimes, we can go back a little bit and then come back and bang our heads again. And that can happen several times until we kind of notice that there's a little clip here, and we just unclip it and let it go.
Release it.
Yeah.
Right. That's big. So when people are able to recognize that in themselves, what do you do to help them release it?
Sometimes it's self-releasing. Sometimes I just go, just look down here, just press that. Sometimes it's just one question, is just, what happens if you take one more step? What's the next step for you? What do you need? What step do you need to take now in order to look back and go, well, that was easy.
Right. Yeah. I think that makes me think a little bit about how the sense of path, right? And how often when we are on this path, stepping off it seems really frightening, or because we like to see where we're going, and this idea of not necessarily being able to see where we're going. I recently read this, that when you start on a huge new path, you can get really hemmed in and terrified by this, right? The fact that you can't necessarily see where you're going all the way. And so, you want to imagine that you can only see that you're in like a really thick kind of like 1950s, like London pea soup fog, and that you can only see like 50 yards, 20 yards in front of you. And that trust that when you get to that next point, you'll know what the next step is, and that you don't need to see 10 miles down the road to start.
Absolutely not. No, it's that age-old quote: "A journey of 1,000 miles begins with the first step."
Right.
It's just having. The scary thing is taking the first step. It's fear of the fear of it, like a phobia.
Right. No,
it's not actually doing it. It's actually thinking about doing it is more scary than taking that step.
Right. And then as well, it's one of these things, like the more you do it, the easier it becomes, which I think we often forget. We get stuck into this thing of like, particularly as adults, I think we can get very stuck in this idea around, new things, new steps, new learning, because, so much of our childhood is around, learning to walk, always learning to speak, and then often we get to this point in adulthood where, it's like, I know. Like, I don't need to learn anymore, or like, this is frightening to take on something new. I don't want to challenge myself, So having to navigate, putting yourself out there and then potentially failing and then, getting back on again is part of it, I suspect, right?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think the spirit of adventure is kind of beaten out of us as we go through school and university and etc. And sometimes work, we get pigeonholed, and you must be like this to do this job. You cannot be yourself to do this job.
Right.
That's not allowed. No free thinkers.
Right. Or it's that sense of this is what your qualification is, or this is what you've succeeded in the past. Therefore, this is what you should limit yourself to doing in the future. Which I think is, is another sort of interesting way. I mean, I definitely found when I started coaching, I would describe my qualifications. And then I was like, it just didn't sound right. It was like, this is what I have, rather than, this is where I want to help take you.
Yeah, absolutely. It's nice when you get to the point where you know the kind of people you could help, and then you know the kind of people you can't.
Yeah.
And the ones I can't help personally, I refer on to other people that I know can, or I think can.
Right. Exactly. And that's letting go of that sense of ego that I can help everybody.
Yeah. Oh God, no. No, I definitely kind of, I was on my little crusade when I first started with it. And quite quickly realized, no. Yeah. I really can't.
But also, it's about whether or not somebody's ready for it. I think that's another interesting element. Is that tension with when you are on that path and wanting to, create this different life for yourself, is whether you're at the point of willingness to take it on yourself. I had a call with a potential client who, one of the questions I ask is, what's stopping you from having what you want in your life? To try and get them to reflect on, their personal role in it. And this guy was a lawyer, and he said, everything's wrong because my PA is totally disorganized and crap, and the female judges, are terrible. And I sat there and I was like, okay, so all, the fact that you are struggling with this, that, and the other is nothing to do with you. It's to do with all these external things. And I was like, yeah, no, that's not going to work. Like, we can't work together because, you are not looking in and getting a deep sense of, who you are in your role and where you want to go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. We can't control other people's behavior, but we can damn sure control our own.
Right. Or how we think and feel about the world as well, right?
Yeah. So many people don't, written through no fault of their own, because nobody's actually told them how these things actually work in here. We have complete control over how we think most of the time. Sometimes they run away from us a little bit every now and again. But we have the ability to rein it back in. That's the great thing. The joys of emotions.
Right. No, I love it. I've been teaching, doing the Headspace app with my kids, and
Okay.
and one of the little videos he has, which is really helpful for little people to understand. Even though it's in the adult one, I showed it to them. Of you're sitting on the side of the road of the traffic, and the cars going by are labeled like hunger, anger, some person, sex, and they're all driving past, right? And you're just sitting there looking at them all as they go past. And your role is not to like run into the traffic and jump onto them when you're learning how to meditate. You're just sitting there and watching, all of these different cars drive past. And I think, that for me was a really good way of trying to help them understand what you're trying to do with this in terms of stepping back, because that I think feeds back into all of this too, is that you can't really develop prosperity and really be driven from your own values if you're just reacting to all these things that are coming up, right?
Yeah, it's just noise that gets in the way. It's distracting, and it takes you away from your purpose.
Yeah. So when you think about developing prosperity, which, from what your work sounds like is much more driven, I mean, not that everybody else's isn't, but is really driven from this deep sense of who you are, right? Like what really motivates you, what your beliefs are, what your values are. And that if you're operating from that, then you will be, in alignment. What are your top 3 tips for helping people cultivate prosperity so that they can live from their true sense of values and beliefs, Simon?
Ooh, top 3 tips. Well, first one is figure out what's important to you. Because until you figure out what your values are, how the hell are you supposed to know what it is you want to do, where you want to go? It's we spend all our time at working for other people, delivering their goals, not really fulfilling our own. I don't think anybody does really at work. Working for other people.
Right.
It's always for somebody else's gain. Somebody else is there to take the glory for your work. So figure out what's important to you.
Right.
So that you then know what your why is. And spend time every day for yourself.
Yeah.
It's we spend so much time, effort and money keeping everything else in tip-top condition, cars, houses, kids even, we've got to be selfish a little bit in order to take care of those people that need us.
Yeah.
So look after yourself and spend some time for yourself, whether it's meditation, whether it's self-hypnosis, whatever you want to call it.
Right.
Do that. And
fill your cup, right?
Oh God, yeah, till it's overflowing.
Yeah.
Without a shadow of a doubt.
Right.
Don't be afraid to let it overflow.
Yeah, right. And that's the place you want to operate from, rather than from like everybody draining you. Yeah.
People coming in and emptying it all the time.
Right. Screw that.
Yeah. My cup stays full, and you can have all the excess that I don't need.
Yeah, you can have the froth on the top of my cappuccino.
Yes.
Not the espresso in the bottom. That's mine.
No. That's bad juju. I think last thing, the third thing, I think for me would really be, the thing I tell my clients is stick to your guns. Live by your values. Live by your own personal principles.
Yes.
Don't let anybody else interfere and drag you off and distract you and steer you in different directions. This is your life. We have one shot at it.
Right.
Do it for you and your family afterwards. But for you, most importantly, first of all, do it for yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's really interesting. And I think that's something that I think a lot of women I see struggle with that, because they, particularly once they have kids, you know, or if they're stuck in that sandwich generation of looking after parents, you know, and kids, you know, and then they're like stuck in that. Yeah. Or even, as you say, like these husbands that are, you know, providing for the whole family in that sense of like, I can't change my job because I've got to pay for school fees and mortgage and, you know, soccer and, you know, I can't follow what I want to do. Yeah. That's a toughie. Yeah. My dad made that decision. My dad was, in TV. He had a TV show in the 60s and then decided to go back to school and train as a psychologist and became a Jungian analyst. And, you know, for me, that was always this model of, you know, really follow what you love. Like when you get up in the morning, you know, do something that is just like, you know, rather than, you know, you've started on something and you're good at it and, you know, and you know, you should just keep going because you've started on this track for something that you're good at, you know?
Very much so.
Yeah.
I've seen that with oil and gas up in the northeast of Scotland here.
Right.
It's obviously had a tough time over the last 2 or 3 years, and the amount of people that, I think, around about 80,000 people in the northeast of Scotland made redundant.
Wow, that must have had such spectacular results.
Yeah, and stress, anxiety, depression, and people moving into different lines of work because they don't want to go back and have the same thing happen again.
Right.
So it's the amount of people that have gone off into different careers is pretty cool, actually.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think that's one of the things that is more open to us now, you know, than it was 30, 40, 50, 60 years ago. Firstly, you know, with technology, we're so much more free to live and do what we want. And then there are so many more things to do now. But I think, you know, this idea that you know, start a job and follow through is not the same anymore. So thinking about this, I know you've got a great free gift to offer our listeners, Simon, on helping you figure out how to achieve your goals and the right kind of outcomes. So you tell us a little bit about it. Okay.
I put together a ebook PDF, I suppose. It's a piece of PDF, but and I called it how to achieve it's about goal setting and more, but it's more about the outcome on the back end of the goals. What's the outcome of achieving those goals, and making sure that outcome fits who you are. So it takes you through the progression of figuring out who you are, how you talk to yourself and about yourself. So it's about that whole two-piece communication, and how you talk about others, kind of, so you are, in that respect, the whole language piece, thought processes, your habits that you create, and then getting into the purpose statement, then going through values, beliefs, and then going back to the purpose statement to rewrite it or redefine it after you've gone through this process.
Okay.
So it is very much about, it's about getting right to the heart of who you are and understanding it. That's what the PDF's about.
Yay! People are going to love it. Thank you so much for sharing that. And thank you so much for chatting with me today.
No, it's been a pleasure.